Welcome back to Servant Leadership Library, the podcast where we sit down with leaders who understand the real leadership isn't about titles, power, or having the fanciest LinkedIn profile. It's about serving people well. I'm your host, Nicholas Paulukow, CEO One-to-One, a managed IT and cybersecurity firm helping businesses stay secure, productive, and gently reminding employees for the 400th time that clicking on suspicious emails is not a good thing. Today's guest is Adam Nagle, Executive Director of the Factory Ministries, a faith-based human services agency focused on reducing and eliminating poverty in eastern Lancaster County, which means while most people are busy arguing on Facebook about community, Adam's actually out there doing something about it. Adam's leadership journey has been shaped by faith, family, and service, and a deep commitment to helping people find hope and opportunity. He and his wife, Tanya, are raising 4 children, Luke, Zach, Eden, and Ava, which honestly may qualify him for leadership consulting all by itself. So today we're talking about servant leadership in the real world, what it looks like to lead with compassion, build stronger communities, walk alongside people in difficult circumstances, and somehow balance ministry, leadership, family, life, and probably at least one child asking for snacks during a serious phone call. So grab your coffee, settle in, and get ready for a conversation about leadership that actually changes lives. So Adam, thank you for joining us today.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Unbelievable what you guys do, and we can't wait to learn more today. You lead an organization kind of focused on poverty, reduction of community, through community outreach and like human services. So tell us a little bit about that. What does that mean?
Yeah,
maybe kind of the history of the name too. We'd love that.
Absolutely. Started in 1994.
Okay.
3 churches pulled together and did a needs assessment in the Pequea Valley community.
Okay.
And what they heard back was a place for at-risk teenagers is the way it was said back then. So we started a youth center.
Okay.
That youth center was started in an old sewing factory.
Really?
There's our name. so all
love
these years later, we're not in that building anymore. And we're much broader than a youth center.
Okay.
But what grew out of that was this reality of collaboration, number one. If you think of 3 churches, all different denominations working together.
Really?
It was powerful, and that's still in our DNA. And then the question, what do you need? Still, we serve our community asking, what do you need? And through time, we learned, especially in the Eastern Lancaster County area, free and reduced lunch number is high. Poverty is significant.
Okay.
And financial poverty is significant. And so growing out, we ended up with adult services. We have a food pantry. We have housing services, domestic violence services within that housing. We have a workforce program. And then we also have elementary kindergarten readiness prep. As you think about alleviation of poverty, and reduction of poverty, we realized we got to get upstream and work young. So we have services then that round out through early learning, elementary, and then our youth center is still there and still strong.
Wow, that's awesome. And so for those that don't understand, kind of Eastern Lancaster County is where? Like in what counties?
So we're located in the Pequea Valley School District.
Okay.
East of Lancaster City. But we don't geographically bind. That's one of the things a lot of organizations like ours, we call ourselves a hub.
Okay.
Which means we're bringing the services out of, so often with rural poverty, especially, you think of coming into a city like Lancaster,
right?
And you have Water Street, you have Tenfold,
right?
You have plethora of resources that you could walk to. You come out to the rural regions, and it's much trickier. You have transportation limitations. You have a lot of hurdles. So we call ourselves a hub, bring resources to our community. And so, but we don't geographically bind. The reason we don't is our mission is to empower people, connect them to resources, and build community. We say empower, and that's really, we're all created in the image of God. We passionately believe that. What that means is we look at in the scriptures in Genesis 1:27-28, it says he created us in the image of God. And then the first thing it said after that is, be fruitful and increase in number, and then rule and subdue the earth. And so we believe that every human has this innate capacity to multiply. Yes, on a very basic level, that's have children, But as you in your business, you have it is very natural and normal for you to want to grow, expand, whether it's personal growth, whether it's growth as a business, whether it's continue to step into new territory and then rule and subdue the earth. All of us have this capacity to rule, to lead, to make decisions that ultimately impact my life and our lives.
I see.
And so, however, life is hard and
Right.
it's taken that out of us. So we believe that empowerment is bringing that back into us at some level,
I see.
restoring that beauty of God's image. It's all in us. So empowerment. So based on empowerment, then it's connect to resources.
Okay.
So we look at poverty, not just as financial.
Okay.
We say it's the degree to which you've gone without resources.
I see.
And so we look at 6 key areas. And so our passion and desires as we instill that empowerment and that sense of, hey, the decisions I make have bearing on my life. We then want to connect them to resources that help them further whatever. So those 6 resources, they could be under resourced. Financially is a big one. Then there's physical, intellectual resourcing, spiritual resourcing, emotional and relational resourcing.
Wow.
So whatever their goals might be. And then community is the final one is we say, hey, poverty is not an individual solo thing. Yes, I make choices as an individual that are going to determine where I land in poverty.
Right.
However, it's a community reality.
Wow.
And so when you ask the question, where, that's why we don't geographically bind.
Right.
And one of the main reasons is I live in New Holland, Pennsylvania.
Yep.
I go to my doctor, a family doctor in Lidditz, Pennsylvania. And if I ask you, why do I do that? It's because I'm resourced.
Right.
I have the opportunity to make a choice.
Right.
I have a car. I have connections. I had friends that recommended. So I ended up traveling past a lot of primary care physicians to get to the one I choose. So we don't find it beneficial towards the ultimate goal of helping someone in an empowered journey to say, oh, you live in New Holland.
Right.
You have to go to CrossNet. You live in Peckley Valley. You have to go to the factory.
I see.
You live in Quarryville, you have to go to Slanko neighborhood. So
I see.
Now the reality is though, to really get is when you look at the zip codes of who comes to us, it's heavily Paradise, Pennsylvania.
I see.
Because again, when you think about it, there is limitations around transportation.
Absolutely. Was it surprising to you that there was so much poverty and resources needed more in the rural areas? I think we hear a lot of poverty like in cities and other areas. Was that surprising to you?
On my journey, it's not anymore, but it was when I went to college. I wanted to be in social work. Ended up as a pastor.
I see.
Quite a journey. Yet my real heart was to be in New York City.
I see.
That was my passion. God kind of stirred me. I was on a missions trip in New York City and I was a young adult. I met a 16-year-old homeless boy.
Okay.
And it's when my eyes opened up to the world is not as it ought to be. And I'm beginning to wrestle with what role do I play in this? And I grew up in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, and I didn't know a lot about homelessness, unhoused individuals, let alone a 16-year-old.
I see.
So I wanted to be in the cities. God didn't direct that way. I ended up in Mifflin County, Pennsylvania.
Really?
40,000 people, rural as rural can be. But what blew my mind was the biggest distinction between rural and urban poverty is the access to resource.
Okay.
So it's mental health therapy isn't there. Your food pantries aren't there.
Right.
Your housing services.
So vast.
It's harder to travel. And then what really blew my mind is like in Mifflin County, I saw this is in the absence of support and resourcing, in the absence of finances and intellectual resources, et cetera, and then in the absence of filling that time, a lot of darkness happens. I remember getting to Mifflin County and the amount of incest,
really,
drugs and alcohol, domestic violence, abuse. It really, that's when my eyes really opened up of like, oh, this is the real distinct, that you'll find that anywhere.
Right.
But in the rural regions, that tends to elevate simply because you don't have the resources or the access to it.
Well, that's interesting that you say, right, you kind of found your purpose, right, through that. But was there a different journey that you were going on prior to finding that purpose? I mean, I think we all have that in our head every day. I know me personally, I wake up and go, am I doing, God, the purpose that you've asked me to do? And like you've had this profound, this is what I'm going to do. And so tell us a little bit more about that, because I think we're all every day wondering, are we doing what we're supposed to be doing?
So my journey was, I grew up in a Christian home, went to a private Christian school in the early 80s.
Okay.
What I know 5 years ago, I know this now, I'm autistic.
Okay.
I didn't know that in the early 80s.
Okay.
I was diagnosed very late in life.
Okay.
And I struggled a lot in school. I hated school. And if you want to, I'm glad to get that, I'm going to do, but school was really, really hard for me. And because I went to a private faith-based Christian school, I linked a lot of the pain that I experienced with faith.
Okay.
Unfairly. And sometimes, it was a messy dynamic.
I see.
When I got out of that Christian school, I went to a public high school.
Okay.
My passion was like, okay, so this is how I was told to live, and it didn't work.
I see.
I want to now go live this way. And I discovered that didn't work either. I mean, sin is
it's not greener on the other side, I guess you're saying.
There's a lot of trauma, a lot of pain, a lot of regret, a lot of heartache that came with that. And the other thing I've learned, I had a lot of suicidal ideation, and even made an attempt on my life when I was 18. And I've learned autistic individuals, 80% of autistic individuals battle with suicidal ideation.
Really?
There's a lot of stigma there. There's a lot of masking.
Right.
Is they're trying to fit into quote unquote normal.
Right.
As they don't feel normal. And so that was very true of me. Now I didn't know the autism connection back then.
I see.
So long story short, at 18, to answer your question, I was like, I wanted to play football. I dreamed of playing at Penn State. And after football, I wanted to run a business.
Okay.
And so
you had it all planned out.
I had it all planned out. First thing that fell was football. I was recruited by small schools.
Okay.
And the Penn State's, 6 foot tall, 5-second 40 time wasn't going to get me to Penn State. And
hey, you're still in the smaller club even to be recruited, right?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So I gave football up. I'm like, well, my dream's dead. So gave that up. And then I started wrestling with business. Like, what do I want to do in business? I was looking at landscaping specifically.
Okay.
And through a lot of circumstances, the attempt on my life, a lot of the battling with depression and anxiety, I ended up reaching out to a friend. Long story short, encourages me to go to Bible school.
Really?
In upstate New York. I go to that school. It's at that school where I'm on that mission trip to New York City. It's there where I meet that 16-year-old. And I said, okay, I don't want to run a business. What I really want to do is pursue social work.
Okay.
And work within the foster care system.
Okay.
That was my very specific piece. So that shifted though when I got into college. I began studying social work, and I came face to face with this reality that, oh, no, wait a minute. Social work's not it hasn't been around a long time.
Right.
And I really wrestled with, well, who did this work before our social structure that we have now? And that's when I discovered, the church did that.
Yeah.
And so I shifted my major to pastoral.
Okay.
Because I thought, well, let's bring it back into the church. So graduated with pastoral, served as an associate pastor, and then senior pastor for 9 years.
Wow.
And then as that ended, I'm like, you know what? I really began to realize why it's not in the local church, why local churches don't deeply embed into why the Water Streets exist, why the Factory Ministry exists, why CrossNet exists, why Tenfold exists. I began to recognize and realize, you know what? That's really the work I want to be in. So shifted and moved to that direction.
And you're doing the run in the business anyway.
I am.
It came back.
I'm an executive director, so I do.
Wow.
Basically, it's running a business.
Wow. Congratulations on that journey, though. I was smiling because oddly similar journey of landscaping, thinking that I was going to do that, to psychology because I wanted to. I was like, wow, okay, we like twins somehow here or what? Different paths, but all come from like wanting to try to own a business, and now we're trying to integrate beliefs into business, right? And so that's fascinating. I can't wait to hear more that you
Love
got to
it.
share with us.
Love it.
It's an amazing path
Mm.
that we all take, isn't it?
It is. It's so amazing. And I had a professor in college say to me, I was trying so hard to find that, like, the will of God, if you will.
Right.
And he just said to me, hey, Adam, listen, the will of God is more about, if you go through the scriptures and study that construct, he goes, you're going to discover the will of God is more about who you are than what you do.
Mm-hmm.
So pay attention to who you are.
Mm-hmm.
Just wake up and be genuine and real to who God's wired you to be. Live called out and set apart to him. Pay attention to that, and hey, the rest will take care of itself.
Absolutely. It's not easy.
No.
But sometimes you're standing alone. I've experienced that myself.
It is.
Yeah. The gospel reading today that I read was about the blind man. And it said, your faith will set you free, right? And so, he asked, to be healed. However, his faith is the one that healed him. And so I think about that every day. Like, okay, you've got this.
Yep.
As much as the things that I want aren't necessarily the path that we should be going, I guess, right?
So true.
So what's the biggest misconception people have about poverty in general?
Oh, oh my, that's a 2-hour answer. I would boil it down to this. So I would say I teach Bridges. It's called Bridges Out of Poverty. I'm a certified instructor.
Okay.
And every time I teach it, there's a moment we get to where we ask the room, what are the causes of poverty? And what we do is we break people up into groups, and then they write all their answers, and then we come back into the larger group and they call their answers back out to me. And as long as I've done this, I've not heard yet a wrong answer. When I talk with people, when you journey with people, we see it. Like, we know people that are struggling, and we can identify reasons why. We're smart people.
Right.
We're intuitive. We're like, oh, okay. And as people call their answers back, what I do is I put them in a quadrant. They're an XY axis. There's 4 areas, because there's actually 4 causes of poverty.
Okay.
And every time I've done it, 75 to 80% of the answers that come back up is personal choice.
I see.
And that's not wrong. That's not wrong at all. Like, if I consistently oversleep,
right,
and don't show up to work, I will lose my job.
Right.
If I consistently spend more than I make, I will be in financial debt. If I consistently don't take feedback from others,
I see.
I will ultimately, it's not going to end well for me.
Right.
And you can name, you can go on the list of, if I abuse drugs and alcohol, it's going to end poorly, in sense of my financial resourcing. So 80% of the answers are in that area, but so that's, I guess, the stigma. Most people think personal choice, and they're not wrong. However, they don't realize the other realities, which are, the other realities. The first one is community condition.
Okay.
So the zip code you were born in, the people that are around you, the health of the place where you live. When I lived in Mifflin County, Case New Holland was there, and they went out. They closed there was 400 employees in a 40,000 populated community.
Wow.
That's a big impact. So
absolutely.
So stuff like that. So community condition. And then the third one would be exploitation. That would be like you made in the intro, you talked about don't click on the email, right?
Right.
Exploitation is that phishing or that scam where you have your identity stolen.
Right.
You have, there's power dynamics. Think of domestic violence. The demographic that are unhoused that we deal with is seniors and single moms.
I see.
Top two hands down demographic. Domestic violence stands behind a lot of that. So that abuse of power. So that's a big one. And then the final one is the social political, and that's a war in Iran, inflation, gas prices.
Let's talk about kind of the word failure, right? There seems to be this thing that failure is terrible, right? And it's bad and it doesn't make, but I guess we're conditioned to that. We went to school, we either passed or failed, right? Failed didn't feel good.
Yes.
And you were kind of criticized for that.
Yeah.
But when you're serving or leading in that manner, what does failure mean to you?
Whew. Oh my, that's, so I'm a perfectionist to the very core.
Okay.
And I hated failure. Matter of fact, the way I will never forget, I was sitting with someone who means the world to me in my life. And who's been very influential in my life from the time I was a little boy. I'm sitting with them and we're talking. They were trying to encourage me to run a business with them.
I see.
And as we're talking, this person looked at me across the table and asked about failure. What if this doesn't work?
Mm.
And they said to me, failure's not an option.
Mm.
In that moment, it hit me. That's how I've lived my whole life. Deeply fearing failure.
I see.
I'm going to work my tail off because it's not an option. So I shifted my perspective to be, hey, if you're not failing, you're not moving,
Right.
you aren't learning, you aren't growing, you aren't, and I really shifted that. However, I then realized I'm making failures that I shouldn't be making.
I see.
And that's when I stepped back, and that's where I kind of rounded it out with, there's certain areas where you just can't fail.
Right.
There's moral realities, and there's things that I heard. I forget the author. It's The Way of the Bullfrog is the book. I don't know if you've heard of that book.
No.
He's the general that would have been part of the mission that took out Osama bin Laden.
I see. Okay.
And if you saw the movie, I think it's Zero Dark 30 is the name of the movie.
Yes.
If you saw the movie, they bring 2 Black Hawk helicopters
That's
in.
right.
One crashes. He talks about, in The Way of the Bullfrog, he talks about failure of nerve, basically.
I see.
How important it is to risk. How that is, you have to risk as a leader. And this is where I think where I'm at currently in my journey is, so I've really learned that. But then he talks about, you need a plan.
Right.
And so he said it was a big risk, but then they sat down and evaluated all the places it could fail.
I see.
So when that helicopter crashed, they had a plan. They knew they were ready for it. So what I've learned with failure is it's so important. But it's also important to have a really good plan. And it's also important. There are certain failures and there's certain risks that you just don't take without good, thorough, because I got kind of reckless. There was a season in my life where I was pretty reckless.
I see.
Like, oh yeah, let's just fail. And then realizing no, because it's detrimental to myself, but also the people I'm leading. They depend on the job. They depend on a stability and a security. They depend on, and so anyway, so that's been my journey with.
I love it. I love it. I guess what I'm hearing from you, if you don't fail, you don't really grow, right?
Yeah, that's so important.
And so if you're not growing, you're not developing, or you can't serve more people if you can't grow yourself. Right.
That's very important.
So was there a defining moment where you realized like servant leadership was kind of a calling? It seemed like you're very mission-based and purpose-based, but you talked about your journey of kind of how to lead people and what you thought that was, from painting the walls to taking the trash out. Yeah. Was there kind of a defining moment of like, man, this is what it really means to serve someone?
Whew. I'm still in a journey on that. I'm still trying to figure that out, to be really candid.
Absolutely.
I realized after my autistic diagnosis, which, when I really stared that down and really looked at the reality that I've been masking so much of my life.
I see.
Trying so hard. I mean, ever since I've been a little boy, it's been, everything is wrong.
I see.
The stimming that I would do, like it was in a Christian school, sit still, everything was bad. I just felt this constant, like if I'm going to be normal, I've got to hide parts of me. And what I think,
interesting word that you use there, normal.
Yeah. Well, that's what
it's like. What is normal?
That's in the autistic community. That's where I spent a lot of energy. Like, who's defined that it's normal to X, Y, and Z? Just because a large swath of the population operates this way.
That's right.
My brain functions this way.
Way differently. Yeah.
Why is that bad? Why is that? So serving, I was highly insecure, is the way I would say it.
I see. Okay.
I mean, aggressively insecure.
Which makes sense from all of the kind of feeling alone, I would assume.
And so much of what I put out into the world was real, but it was also not real.
I see.
It was based on the gifts that God gave me, but they were not being used out of humility. I'd never forget, I had an 80-year-old a neighbor of ours that went to the church of a senior pastor.
Okay.
And he said to me, He said, Adam, I notice when you preach, you don't look at people in the eye.
Hmm.
Now, some of that's autism.
Okay.
But what's very, very fascinating to me now is I'm no longer a preacher, but I still stand on stage and do a lot of talk. I'm still a public speaker. And what's fascinating to me now is when I stand on stage, I naturally look at the eye. And I'm thinking, well, that's some of it's learning autistic realities and some things I've learned to self-manage.
I see. Okay.
But I think what it really boils down to is I really paid attention to the impact that I have on a human.
Ah.
And I think that's what unlocks servant leadership for me. That 80-year-old friend of mine, I still get together about every other month. We still get together for breakfast.
That's great.
He's become a friend to me, and he's, people that tell you the truth. You love it. And I think about that. And I think now about my speaking, I look at people in the eye now. And some of it's, I've learned to manage my autistic, avoiding of eye contact.
Right.
But a lot of it is just, no, what I'm now looking at that person and I'm a lot more comfortable with, and this is what I've learned about humility and battling that insecurity. Humility is actually deeply courageous and bold. Humility is saying, I have something. I know myself. I know what God's called me to. I know the gifts he's given me. Not to further my ego,
right?
Not to make myself look, but I have been given this thing and it's a gift to the world.
Right.
That's a hard place to live.
Kind of sets you free then.
It does.
Yeah.
And so now when I'm on stage and I'm talking, I'm looking out at the person and I'm like, I'm here. And if I can't answer this positively, I shouldn't be on stage.
Right.
But I'm here to give something.
Right.
For them to receive.
Right.
To encourage, to strengthen, to challenge, to do something to further their life. And God's given me a gift to communicate, and I get to do it and leave impact.
I see.
And so what it's done is it's brought it down to, I see the person.
I see.
I see the person I'm impacting. So it's been that's where I'm at currently in servant leadership and battling that insecurity.
And I think one thing I'm learning from you as well as you're speaking is kind of that humility, but then also how we receive that, right? So like if there's negativity or there's feedback, when in reality, if we're humble and realize that we can learn from that, or that we don't need to receive something to feel good about it, right? That's a hard switch, right? Like from thinking about taking care of yourself, and especially I would imagine the people that you serve that are just trying to have the necessities of serving themselves, that how can they serve others? I always find that it's I'm the inner problem, right? And Christ says what? Like, I am love. So all these other things outside of love are really not of me, right? And it's those temptations like that just hits home, but it's hard. I mean,
so hard
every day, but you also said one intriguing thing. Tell us about this quiet room, right? Because we seem to live today in a society of noise. Like I realized that last night, when I had the TV on, and then, you turn it off and you're like, wow, this is so peaceful. Right. And, so tell us about, if you wouldn't mind, quiet room. Why? What does it do for you?
It's been life-giving to me. It's life-changing. I would even say saving. I would say it's saved my life in a lot of ways, saving my marriage in a lot of ways. So what I do is I've learned what really has meant a lot to me is the first question God asked humankind after sin enters the world is powerful. So I keep it in front of me. I sit down. I try to do it every day. Some days honestly, I don't hit it, but I try to do this every day. I sit down, I keep the verse printed in front of me. That is God's question to man, where are you? So I think about this. This is so powerful to me because the world, it was perfect.
Right.
Sin enters and now God steps in.
Right.
And I think of all the things he could have said.
Right.
All the things that I would say as a dad.
Right.
I caught my kids doing what they shouldn't do. What are the first things that run through my mind? The first thing he says is, where are you? So what I've found is the power in answering that question, in being honest and transparent, to be a place where I can come to my creator and say, this is where I'm at.
Right.
And so what I try to do every day is I get a journal out And part of this is what I've learned with autism too, it takes a lot for me to get in touch with what I'm feeling. I'm very logic.
I see. Okay.
So I get a journal out every single day, and I start with my personal practices. I start with meditation. So I sit there and I try to do at least 5. This is real. I've learned this is so hard to do. 5 minutes of zero thinking, of just being still. When someone challenged me with this, I was like, come on, how hard is that? It's hard.
It's hard. Yeah.
Like the mind is constantly
always going.
So I try to just be still and silent for at least 5 minutes. And then the next thing I do is I take my journal and I write down emotional words of what I'm feeling. Where am I? So today I wrote the word vulnerable. I'm feeling vulnerable today because of some things I know I was facing today.
Okay.
I wrote down anxious because of those same things.
I see.
I wrote down the word grateful because there were some things I really felt grateful for this morning. I see. So I really say, what am I feeling right now? That's my next, because I'm trying to answer that question. Right. Where are you? And then I journal. Okay. And I have found, journaling has been life-saving. I could geek out in the science of it that I didn't know when I started it. I just started doing it. I found but I just write. And some days it'll be 2 sentences. Today it was probably 3 pages.
Wow.
But it untangles the complexity in me in a powerful way. And then what I do when that's done, I spend time praying the Lord's Prayer.
Wow.
And I try to do that every day. And when you think about the Lord's Prayer, all that it goes through, starts out our Father who is in heaven. So the word our, we're collective in a community.
Right.
He's my Father. Then it's hallowed be thy name, and you work through the beauty of what he's great.
Absolutely.
And thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as in heaven. So now I'm praying through what's in front of me today.
Right. It is that thy will be done.
Correct. Am I doing his will? And then as it is in heaven, am I doing it with joy, or am I begrudging?
Right.
Give us this day our daily bread. So I literally sat down and I prayed for this today. Like, okay, I think about what's coming in front of me today. Right. What do I need today? Because being in that position of need is I think we don't like it. I don't like it.
Right.
But even like if I think about if I'm baking and I run out of butter, there was a day when we called our neighbor.
Right.
We don't do that stuff anymore.
Right.
We quick run to the store.
It's an abundance.
We've tried to work so hard to eradicate need, but to be in a position of what do I need? So I go through I'm going to be on this podcast today. God, and I prayed through specifically what I was hoping for. And I have a meeting later on today that I'm a little nervous about. So I prayed very specifically. What do I really get in touch with? What do I need?
I love that.
And then forgive us our sins. So I then work through my inadequacies and the places where I failed and the people I've hurt. And I pray through that. And then I pray through as I forgive others. So I try really hard then to wrestle through. There's some people that I'm really struggling with and have hurt me, and wrestle with that. And then I end with, deliver us from evil. And so I love the Psalm. I prayed a lot. It's like David prays, cleanse me from my hidden faults, keep me from the deliberate sins. So that's the end of the prayers. There's a lot of me that I don't understand, that I'm sure is messed up, that I'm just, God, until I figure it out, just cleanse me. But then today I end with, there's deliberate things. There's things that I know I ought not to be doing. And keep me from them. Give me the strength to do that well today. And then I pray for my kids and my family and the family, the people that are in my inner circle. I close by praying for them and pray that same thing. Protect them today. Keep them from evil. So that's my morning routine. And then I'll read scripture. If I have time, I'll read scripture too. So some days I get to the scripture reading, other days I don't, but that's I
love the format.
But that's what I do. That's what's been helpful to me. It's not just helpful. That journaling has
life-changing.
Life-changing.
Wow. I appreciate you sharing that. Being open to do that and express that is wonderful. And it's so eye-opening to just remember that everybody is going through the same or different things than you are every day, right? Because I was reflecting in the same things every time you do a podcast. Like you're nervous or anxious or are you going to deliver? And we're all thinking the same things. Just are we humble enough to kind of work through it? That's what I love about doing this today. Just I leave learning so much more, and hopefully others are too. Like Unbelievable. But there's power in that private, quiet space,
So
which
much
is,
power.
every time that Jesus had the hardest things to do, where was he? He was with his Father in quiet.
Yeah. And let's talk about servant leadership. The thing that I've learned a lot about that, the power of that quiet space is I used to say, well, I'm a verbal processor, which is true.
Okay.
Is very true of me. But a lot of it was I was emotionally immature.
I see.
Autism comes with it. There's a delay.
I see.
Is the way some would state it. And I would lag my emotional development because of the way my brain works, and I'm very logic, rigid,
I see.
more approach. And so what I began to realize is, oh, that verbal processing, I'm actually giving people stuff that isn't for them to hold.
Right.
It's actually emotional maturity to be able to sit in a space and internally process that.
Right.
And internally absorb that. And so I learned early, like there's individuals that would have reported to me, 20 years ago that I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry. Like I was in essence giving them burdens and processing, my wife and my kids and people in my life. And I'm like, oh, that really, there's a power in sitting with your creator and just processing.
Right.
And figuring it out, and all the complexity of thought and all the incomplete thoughts, and work it out with me in here.
Right.
Before I come out and
say,
give it to you. And there's a real sense of maturity in that.
Because when you're talking it out, some people want to help solve the problem. In reality, I think from my experience, it's not a problem I want solved. I just want to hear it. Yeah. Huh.
And I've learned to say too, because it still helps me to talk these out. I've learned to say in meetings or with people, hey, listen, I'm a verbal processor.
Right. So you have to kind of set the stage.
I do. And I'm saying, listen, I may say things in the next 5 minutes that I'm going to realize I don't mean at all. Because I've learned too the importance to just let them know, because it is still helpful for me to verbally
process that. Yeah. And you're trying to kind of gather, probably, I would assume, more data.
Exactly.
Right? Like, what don't I know? And what could change my position on what's next.
Yes.
I love it.
Yes.
So kind of on that path, what do you think that every person that's trying to learn how to serve or lead, is there a book that you can imagine would be helpful for them?
Oh my goodness. Oh, just one.
Well, if you have a few,
Oh, my mind always goes to like the current one that I'm reading, but one book. Oh, I've read so many. Probably the book that I would encourage a leader to read more than any other is Pete Scazzero's work, Emotionally Healthy Spirituality.
Okay.
That book started this journey for me.
Really?
I vividly remember when I was living in Charlotte, North Carolina, doing a church plant. The church plant was failing. I was failing.
Really?
I was struggling. I read that book. It's the first book I read that I had this emotional response to.
Really?
It's the first book I read where I'm realizing I'm not very emotionally mature. That's when the light bulb first came on.
Okay.
And how important it is. And what really unlocked for me out of that book was, if I'm going to know God, I have to know myself. I always reverse that, which the reverse is also true.
Right.
It's also, I need to know God to know myself. But I also have to know myself to know God. John Calvin talks about that, and Pete Scazzero pulls some of those thoughts out. And I was realizing in that moment, I don't know myself.
Huh.
And I'm insecure, and my shadow side is leading out far more than what I wanted it to and was even aware of. I was leading. People would have said I was preaching angry. I heard that a lot. Where I don't hear that same feedback anymore.
Really?
And I used to chalk that up as, well, I'm a prophet. I'm here to reform and lead change. And I'm like, no, I was just insecure and angry and had an axe to grind. So there was just a lot to me that book started me in a journey. So that's probably, if I had to pick one.
And how do you feel today? How do you feel like about yourself today through this journey?
Oh, I'm so radically changed.
Really?
I still struggle with, there's still part of me that wants a mask there's still part of me that my autistic realities still don't quite fit in the world in which I lead.
I see.
That's still very much real. But I'm in a far healthier place, a mature place of knowing, well, this is the gift I have.
Right.
And the beauty is, the thing I really learned with that is the more I'm able to name that, the more I depend on you.
Right.
Because you have something I don't have.
Right.
I don't need to do that because you do it.
Right.
And so the more I get comfortable with what I bring, the more it actually opens me up to receiving.
To ask for help.
Exactly.
Yeah. Which is kind of that mechanism I can assume from any of us that have gone through trauma. It's kind of like we have to solve it on our own because that's the way it is. What a beautiful way to talk about that as we kind of get into our final question for the end of the day, right? What do you hope people experience when they interact with you?
Boy, that is a profound question. I think answering that question is the whole essence of servant leadership, humility. Okay, let me answer it this way. What I've learned is the joke I used to make is I painstakingly educate. It's part of my wiring. And I used to really be uncomfortable with that. But I'm a professor at the end of the day. It's my personality. And so I've really learned, I don't want to educate, I want to inspire. But I've learned, and what I hope people experience now is I hope they feel seen and heard. And I hope they feel enriched. And then I think in that there is inspiration.
Right.
But I used to try and work really hard to inspire. Inspire was like and I've learned there's a lot of forms of inspiration. So ultimately, I hope people leave inspired, but I've learned they will do that when I see and hear them and I am secure in myself and I then enrich, I bring something because that's who I am. And then in that, I think they are inspired. They're encouraged. They're going to walk forward into life, wanting to make a change.
And that old age, like if you don't, like on the airplane, right? You got to help yourself before you can help others. I'm hearing that over and over again until you find yourself, you can't really help other people. Is that fair to say?
That's a great overarching theme of my life.
Wow.
Has been, and I think in the community I grew up in, and then me trying to mask and hide.
Right.
It was so much of me trying to fit into what's normal.
Right.
Well, what was normal in the Christian community I grew up in was serve others, love others, and so there's so much of me that was trying to be that and do that, but I didn't know myself. And I wasn't taking care of myself.
What a journey.
And that's been where I've been on my journey, is learn to take care of myself, because at the end of the day,
and love yourself.
It is. At the end of the day, it's what's going to enable me to care for you.
Right. Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. I appreciate it.
Super.
Well, that wraps up another episode of Servant Leadership Library. Huge thanks to Adam for joining us today and reminding us that leadership isn't just about running organizations, leading teams, or having impressive titles. It's about showing up for people, especially when life gets messy. Adam's work through the Factory Ministries is proof that servant leadership looks less like standing on a stage and more like standing beside people in difficult moments. It's compassion with work boots on, right? And honestly, between leading a nonprofit focused on poverty reduction and serving the community and raising 4 kids with his wife, Tanya, Adam may actually be the most qualified person we've ever had to show to talk about chaos management, right? Today's conversation reminded us that real impact doesn't always happen in headlines or in boardrooms. Sometimes it happens quietly. One family, one conversation, one act of kindness, as you mentioned. Thanks again for tuning in to Servant Leadership Library. I'm your host, Nicholas Paulukow, CEO of One2One, your friendly neighborhood managed IT and cybersecurity company, helping businesses stay secure while always trying to convince humanity that sticky notes is not an acceptable password management system. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure to subscribe, share it with someone who, leads well. And remember, best leaders are the ones willing to serve first. We'll see you next time.
Awesome. Thank you.